Hey everyone, so we are in the midst of February and we are getting melting snow and rain for days. So I told my husband that there were flood warnings in effect last night, and I double checked our sump pump and I forgot one key element. With our property, our house sits up high and the field runs real low in areas, and there's that creek that goes through our whole property to the main river. So I asked him this morning, did you hook up the black corrugated drain tile? So that's what this is, running here across the yard, and he did not hook it up. I'm home doing lots of laundry today, and I realized that the sump pump was running for way too long. So after about 10 minutes, I came down to see what the problem was. So this is a terrible design flaw. Somebody dug this out and made a basement utility room, and of course all the water runs downhill. See all this sand? The water was gushing from the sump pump so much it created a little channel here. It's supposed to go out here and run out that way. This is how much water we're taking on. This was not here last night at all. And if I zoom in, I've showed it before, it gets so high that in that low spot there, it just comes right over. And he had to go out and pull out branches and debris last year. So when you get these flood warnings, you want to make sure that you are set up and ready to go. I had just made a video at Menards of the sump pump that we had and how awesome it was in cast iron. Well, it ran for so long, it actually kicked the breaker off in the house while I was out here hooking up this tile. So the previous owners diverted through the floor joist out the back here, and it was just dumping out right here, and he did not have this hooked up. So the water was just running off that way, recirculating back to the basement, and that's why it wouldn't shut off. This morning it was running about every 5 or 10 minutes. But it's warmer now, there's more thawing, and that groundwater's got nowhere to go. Why on earth they built the house with a sump pump when it was up high like this, I have no idea. But this drain tile, it's better for you to have solid drain tile. Some of these pieces were perforated. Must be they went back a second time and bought more. So I have all the solid drain tile up here, and then diverted, switched it to the perforated down there just to get it as far away as possible, because if it floods this area, it'll just keep carrying out. If it goes that way at all, it's going to circulate right back down to that basement. And there used to be a sump pump in there, but we found out it was just pouring into the drain tiles in the basement also. So it was useless and broke. So that's something I'm going to have to look into. But this time of year, it's hard to find and get a sump pump at the store. So you want to make sure you're running. I thought about having one on the shelf, but they all have like a 90-day or a 1-year warranty. I don't know what this one was. I'm sure it was longer than that. But they say if your sump pump's older than 3 years, you might want to switch it out anyway to make sure. If I was gone at work, that basement would be flooded in minutes. So let's go see what's going on down there. Okay, I've got them all switched out so that my worst tile is down here on the end, and you can see I'm kind of losing more of it right up in here, but it's still further, it's still running and getting it away and just diverting here into the blackberry patch, which they don't like to get their feet wet, but for today, that's what they got. This is 4-inch corrugated drain tile, and I got it. You want to have it as straight as possible down the slope to get it diverted away from the house. Okay, so I'm here in my basement, and to show you, this is the original float that came on our sump pump. I know it's hard to see with the lighting here, but the sump pump drain is plumbed right to, terrible lighting. I got a flashlight here somewhere. Okay, we totally and only use this basement for storage. So here's our sump pump, and it has been running almost non-stop. It quit on its own for a minute. I made sure that it wasn't airlocked. If the crock goes dry and there's no water in it, then you can get airlock, which is basically a bubble in there and water isn't pumping out. So you want to make sure that it didn't go dry and get airlocked when I lost power. It actually, because it was running nonstop, tripped the breaker, and now this area is getting all wet. So I have to move my buckets out, my mason jars, so that I can start sucking up water. And unfortunately, I have to use my Bissell, which could really kill the motor on it, and I shouldn't. I know better. I've done it before. So if you look back in history, replacing my pump on my Bissell, this is why. So my father-in-law borrowed our shop vac. So I've got water to here, and this has happened before, so I kind of know better, but it's the only spot to keep the mason jars. We've tried to keep things up off the floor the best we can, but obviously, see, I've got lots of canning supplies and the more important supplies like the maple syrup supplies and the bee supplies end up on the shelf. So all of my canned stuff, maple syrup that's on the floor here, has to be pulled out so that it can dry up. It's creeping over to the freezer. Trey's vacuuming to make sure that we don't hurt the shop vac by making sure that there's no bits. We get hay on our clothes, and this is the laundry area, so it does get quite loaded full of lint and things. The kids play with their Legos down here, and that will shut down a water suction thing pretty easily. So this is the inside door to that slope, and you can see that water, it's not a waterproof door. Water was coming from above where the deck meets, and there is downspouts there. It's just not enough to keep up. And then it's coming in from under the door because it's so high. On the other side of this door, there is a crock for a sump, but it's going right into the drain tiles here, and I don't know how they had it plumbed out of that area in the first place. Maybe that's what the original black drain tile was for. So I am just making sure that this area, things are getting up off the floor, like that basket is just full of old picture frames. But I'm taking stuff up to the garage. I'll help you in a second. There's an outlet over there. But you don't want to be standing on wet when you plug it in, so you don't get a shock. So hang on. I've got like the kids' old headboards are down here, so I'm putting 2x4s up underneath everything to keep it dry, and it might be better just to take it up. That is okay. So I've been going on carrying all my mason jars up. I got my stairs and my garage all filled up with mason jars, and I had to stop to feed the animals, and it wasn't getting worse. So I wanted to see if I could get the trash pump going outside. And yeah, I don't have the right size hose for it. I need 3-inch, and I've got 2-inch. So he's got some adapters and things that can hook up to pipe, but because it's going downhill, I really need hose. So he's on his way, and we are going to have him stop by Menards on the way, so that we have everything we need for future and for today to pump this out. It's traveling a little further over this way, but I've got the bulk of the stuff. Everything over here is all plastic totes, and we did that on purpose after the first flood. But with mason jars, I mean, you can't really hurt them, so it's just the inconvenience of having to carry them up. And they now make plastic crates that you can put them in, but for the cost of the crate, it's cheaper to buy these kinds of plastic totes. So in the future, that might be what I'm going to have to go with, because they all have to be moved to suck the water out anyway. But the pump's pumping, running it all out of the house. So as I've said in the past, when it rains, it pours. It's literally raining and pouring here. The basement's wet, and that just makes more work for me. So little baby George is needing his mom. I am taking a break. I've been doing this enough hours today. My legs are tired from going up and down, so I'm going to go drink a bunch of water and feed my baby. This area over here is not doing too awful bad. It's spread a little bit. So it was good that we got this area cleaned out and out of here first. It was just all of our old shoes, and they had been wet before and kind of halfway gone through and never finished the job. So that job's finished, and everything over here is safe from flooding. The kids' Legos, they've got a sheet of plywood here. We just threw everything that they had, project boxes and Legos and Thomas, all up on that table. So at least the rain is slowing down outside, and there's no more snow to melt, except for the ice that's in the ground frozen. But it's going to keep filtering down through here, but this is probably the worst of it. Well, after the whole night, the husband came home from work, and the sump pump at some point had got an air bubble in it and wasn't pumping at the capacity it should have. And I thought it was a little lower, but I turned it off and turned it back on, and apparently it wasn't long enough to get that solid water flow again. But it finally caught up, but just the water leaching and being under the carpet, it got to here. So you can see in proximity to the sump pump, yesterday it was over on this side of the water softener. So I had, of course, brought over what I could. So a lot of my canning jars and things are stacked up over there, and totes full of clothes that the kids don't wear anymore. My father-in-law had to work late, and the shop vac did not make it back here, unfortunately, and I was not going to risk the pump on the Bissell again. I was awful tempted, but I knew it wouldn't last long. It ran non-stop. It just kicked on again. And at some times during the evening before we went to bed, he took it off the flow and just had it running continuously. And then if it would gulp air, then he would come down and turn it off and let it set for a second or a minute and then run it back out. But that 2-inch pipe here makes a huge difference over just a garden hose, because this area could not have pumped out even the quantity of water that I was pumping out during the day, let alone later on when it was at its full capacity. So unfortunately I got some wet carpet to have to deal with. So this, yeah, got to do some sucking it out and dry it out and get the fans going. So this area here never got worse. It's just really saturated. And if I step over, this is my treadmill, and I, of course, got all my things that I hadn't boxed up on top of that to keep them dry. But if, like right here, you can see I stepped there earlier today, and the water was soaking up. And we didn't cut the carpet when we put it down here. We just kind of rolled it out real quick for a play area for the kids. And where it's 2 layers, you know, it's more spongy there. So it's going to take a lot of drying out. But this area here has a lot of water just sitting. And like here, I put 2x4s underneath anything. I've got a wooden playpen back there and the kids' headboards. So they're off of the wetness. And let's go out and go see what's going on the other side of this door. Hi everyone. So I decided to come out and see how the flooding's doing out here. It's been the next day. The sump pump ran all day and all night, and it finally started to slow down because it was catching up. And I'm just now putting up a video when I was tapping the trees, and I had to come out here to this B area, and I shot a little bit of the creek. So let me show you what the creek looks like today after more snow has melted. And it's been roughly about 32 degrees today, and it's damp and it's cold, and it's just terrible to be out here. But I got to give the cows their dinner, and it is about 5:15. The deer are out in the hay field, and it's amazing. They can hear me and they are running off, and they are so far away. You can hear the noise of the creek. They're way up there, over there, and then on the edge of the woods. And they can hear me. That's why hunters have to be totally silent. So here's the creek. This is the same shot as the other day. Right where I said the elderberries were, right up here and over here. See how it's just going. So Trey came outside for a little while the other day, and he was looking for me, and I went in before him. So after I got washed up, I thought, what if he came out to the creek to come and see what was going on and fell in? That is some rushing water. Our kids know to stay away from it no matter what. So even when it's low in like a drought type season, we're real careful to watch for them, and we only ever go down to the creek together. And I mean, it's, you know, not even knee high in most places, but still, that is really gushing right now. So this is what's going on around here. This is my path to the woods and up to the house. So to take a tractor up this way, loaded with a sap trailer, I'm gonna sink and rut this up really bad. So I've been kind of holding off. Anyways, because we went from snow to melting to flooded, and you know, now I've got standing water. So if I take just my Suburban up to the woods, I can load up some buckets and taps. I remember last year we took a couple of wagons and we just did like 20 or 30 trees at a time. Walking back is very, very exhausting. So you can see here, he dug a trench to kind of help with this area in the previous years. So it is slowly kind of carrying away off of the edge of the field, but the whole this is the north field, just kind of slopes off this way, and it helps with that. And then we've got the big water bowl that he had sump pumped or used the trash pump on last year and drained that out, but he did all that regrading this year, so I'll be able to check that out another time and just kind of see how that has progressed and improved with the work that he's done. So yesterday's deal, you can see I kind of got bags under my eyes. I am tired. I'm getting over being sick. All those trips up the stairs yesterday, taking all that stuff to the garage, really wore me out. So today's been a little easier. The sap's not really running. It's a little too cold. And I am just kind of catching up on that. But I wanted to come out and see the creek and see how the basement step area kind of worked out. So, like I said when I was in the basement, let's go check it out. So one of the things that we made sure to do yesterday, in my busyness of having a baby, I didn't hang Christmas lights up here this year, and I did not clean out the gutters. And this was a bumper crop year for maple seed. Whirligigs from the, I think they're called Samoas, from the maple trees. So those seeds were clogged up and a little bit of leaves. But this was froze right into the ground and partway up. So all the water was dumping out right here. And underneath this section of the deck is right where that opens up. And the brilliant people who built it just decided to put black plastic there to help with some of the water control. However, you can see it doesn't go all the way to the edge of the foundation, and that water just was kind of migrating. Now, it does go downhill some, but my husband was out here, no shirt on, soaking wet. He said his coat was all wet from the day before, and he went around and cleaned out all the eaves troughs for me. So let's see how this is going. The field is looking much, much better. It's soaking in and being carried off. At some point today, it stopped coming over the edge, right about where that pine tree here is where it was all kind of coming in and going in. There's no more standing water at the fence posts, which we're real lucky about that. If you are going to build a fence, know your ground. when he put that there, we knew we were already having trouble with water coming in, but it has never been as bad as it is. That dirt is absolute clay. I mean, it's like concrete down there. And those posts did not budge. It's still perfectly straight and tight. Of course, all the debris from the field is brushed up against it, but it'll dry out and blow away with the wind at some point. So the fence is doing fine. I walked it all today, and nobody's getting out. So standing water here, not as deep as it was, but unless I get the trash pump out, this is not going to go down. And you can't really see because it's dark in there. Well, I guess you can. The pink foam on the outside of that door, it's got the lip here, just the same as in there. And we poured this in with concrete with the anticipation of sealing this opening up with more concrete blocks. And these blocks were not originally here. So you can see a water line on that pink foam, and it was going up over the edge into the basement. So a real bad deal there. And it was also coming down from the top up above. So hopefully, I really hope that someday we could put an addition on back here and fill this all in, because it's unnecessary and it was just a terrible design. And you can see it's, you know, kind of coming apart. So it would be better to just fill it in with dirt. When they did it and they built, you can see this deck post is not straight. We don't use it a lot, and we certainly don't entertain, so it's not a problem. But that's the water situation for today. It's a lot better and better under control than it was yesterday. I've got some things going on outside with my feeding, and I ended up over here by the shop to burn garbage. This was pretty well flooded, and I'm going to be doing maple syrup tomorrow. It is draining off because it's not on a slope at all, so it is going down and draining, and it's getting pumped out my backyard apparently. But this was absolute standing water, and it was up over the bottoms of my pant legs yesterday. So at least what is left is it. The rain didn't happen today like they had originally forecasted, and there's no rain forecasted tomorrow, possibly some the day after for 2 days. So this isn't looking really any better, but not worse. So this area here is a little better. Still don't want to go through here with a normally go right path through here and then back around there. Up to that lane, to that flooded area I showed you for doing the maple sap. And this is how I get it all around, just on this trailer, either pulled behind the Suburban or pulled behind a tractor. So with the dual axle of this, the wide tires, it just really tears up this yard quite a bit. So I'm just going to check on these buckets and see if I have to empty them for the night. But that is the flood for 2018, everybody. We will see you next time with some maple syrup cooking.